Okay, welcome to this video on cell biology. This is the second video in the series in cell biology, and what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the different cell types you get. There are 4 different cell types we need to know for National 5 biology, and we're going to go through them in this video. Each cell type has its own particular characteristics, and you should be able to tell the cells apart given some of those characteristics, and that's often a question in your exam in May. Or April it is this year. Biology is coming first, April. So this is all for National 5 Biology in Scotland, but you might find this useful if you're doing GCSEs, whatever. It's just revision. There's no difference between bacterial cells in England where they do GCSEs or Scotland where they do National 5. So basically all this stuff is relevant for anybody. It's just the order of your units is a little bit different and the way you look at things is different. But anyway, let's talk about the 4 types of cells. You need to know about 4 types of cells for National 5 biology: bacterial cells, animal cells, fungal cells, and plant cells. Now remember, the animal, fungal, and plant cells are all eukaryotic cells. They're very complex, and we need to be able to tell these 4 types of cell apart so that if a question asks, here are the structures found in a cell, what kind of cell is it? You should be able to tell what kind of cell it is. That's the important thing. And there are other things that not just the structures of that are within cells that are important, but the shape of the cells is also important. You can tell an animal cell because it doesn't have a regular shape in general. It has an irregular shape because it doesn't have a cell wall bonding it. Fungal cells, in fact, what we tend to see in National 5 is just a yeast cell. Yeast cells are single-celled fungus that have evolved out of multicellular fungus. This is a multicellular fungus down here, this little diagram, but we don't tend to talk about them in National 5. But hey, never say never. I can tell you that last year in 2025, they suddenly asked us about vacuoles and whether vacuoles appeared in bacteria. And there was some confusion from a lot of the students. Everybody found that question hard because they'd never asked that before, and suddenly it popped up. So one of the things they might ask if they're going to go for something different again in this, and they're getting a bit tighter, they're asking harder questions, I think, in National 5. They may start asking about the overall shape of cells. So animal cells tend to be irregularly shaped and have no cell wall. Fungal cells, at least the yeast cells, are round, generally circular in shape. Yeast cells are circular, globular, like a globe. They're 3-dimensional, of course. But we also get these fungal hyphae, but I don't think that's going to come up in National 5, but it's worth knowing that fungi generally are multicellular organisms, and they spread through some other material in order to survive as these long strands of cells all joined together. So these are called hyphae. Plant cells tend to be quite regular in shape, sort of geometric in shape, like trapeziums or parallelograms or something like that. Large, they're very large. They tend to be much larger than animal cells or fungal cells, and they usually have a large central vacuole. So these cells are all large. Bacterial cells are tiny in comparison to eukaryotic cells. The bacterial cells are what we call prokaryotes, and they are tiny compared. So think about this. Animal cells, fungal cells, and plant cells contain chloroplasts, and they contain mitochondria. They all contain mitochondria. The plant cells contain chloroplasts and mitochondria. Now, those chloroplasts and those mitochondria are about the same size as bacterial cells. The typical bacterial cell is about the same size as a mitochondrion. So remember that. The bacterial cell, if there is a size thing, if they give you that size question in the exam, remember, bacteria are tiny compared to these guys. Okay, so not all animal cells are bigger than bacteria. Some that are very, very tiny, for example, sperm cells are extremely tiny. All they're doing is carrying the DNA. But anyway, in general, a typical animal cell is much bigger than a typical bacterial cell, much bigger. So is a fungal cell, so is a plant cell. All right. So what are the characteristics of a bacterial cell? Well, they all have a cell membrane, they all have a cytoplasm, they all have chromosomes. Okay, so they all have ribosomes. So the 4 things that all cells have are present in all of the types of cells. So when we go to plant cell and fungal cell and animal cell, we'll see all 4 of these things: cell membrane, cytoplasm, chromosome, and ribosomes. The 2 things that set the bacterial cells apart in National 5 are the presence of plasmids, and they also have a cell wall. It's a bacterial cell wall. It's not made of the same stuff as a plant cell. This one in this diagram is called murine. It must be some kind of protein, I guess. And they do have, they can get quite complicated outside their cells. They can have little protein coats and things like that outside the cell wall too. So, but they do have a cell wall. Bacterial cells are also characterized by the things they don't have. They do not have membrane-bound organelles. They have no mitochondria, they have no nucleus, they have no chloroplast, and they have no vacuole. So you need to remember to spot a bacterial cell, it's going to have plasmids, and it's going to have no mitochondria, no nucleus, no chloroplast, and no vacuole. Plant cells tend to be large and generally some kind of geometric shape is what is drawn in the diagrams. And the plant cells will have the four things, again, that all cells have. They have a cell membrane, they have cytoplasm, they have chromosomes, and they have ribosomes, okay? And then they have the one thing that, or the two things that all eukaryotic cells, all complex cells have. They have a nucleus and they have mitochondria. So the animal cell, the fungal cell, the plant cell have all of these five things. All three of them have all of those, okay? They have ribosomes, mitochondria, nucleus containing chromosomes, cytoplasm, and cell membrane. The thing that sets the plant cells apart is the presence of chloroplasts, but the chloroplasts only occur in the green parts of plants. The root cells the chloroplasts tend to just fade out because they're not necessary and they can't survive without it light. So in the roots, there are no chloroplasts. So you can get plant cells that don't have chloroplasts. They're not chloroplasts in every single plant cell, and that's an important distinction. You need to know that because they've asked about that in National 5 exams. They have a large central vacuole in general because this is how plant cells maintain their structure, how plants maintain their structure. Basically, you can think of a plant as being a whole bunch of little balloons, and you pump them up full of water. And if you pump them all full of water, the cells become turgid. The plant stands up nice and tall and can reach for the sunlight. There are other ways plants stand up tall. Of course, they've got woody stems and things like that, but that's beyond National 5 learning at the moment. And they also have a cell wall, and the cell wall is made of cellulose in plants, and that's part of the structure. So the vacuole fills up with water and sugar. It fills up with what they call the cell sap in plants, and it pushes against the cellulose cell wall, and this forms a very rigid structure. It's called turgidity. It's a rigid structure, and that rigid structure is what holds the plant upright. A plant that doesn't have any water tends to wilt, and the cells become plasmolized if they're lacking water, and the plant can recover from this if you get some water onto it in time. So very wilted plants can recover, depends on the species. Okay, so that's a plant cell. What have we got in here that we don't have? Well, we don't have any. Remember, in the bacterial cell, you had plasmids. You don't get any plasmids in animal, fungal, and plant cells. So they're gone from this discussion now. Okay, animal cell, nice simple cell. There's not much to write home about in the typical animal cell. Remember, it's got the same four things that every eukaryotic cell has. Those four things: the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, the nucleus containing chromosomes, and it has mitochondria. All the eukaryotic cells, animal, fungi, and plant, have all of those four. And it has ribosomes. So the animal cell really is, so these ribosomes, did we have ribosomes in the plant cell? Yes, we did. So those five things are present in all the eukaryotic cells, and the animal cell basically just has them. The thing that sets the animal cell apart from all of the other cells in this list is the fact that it has no cell wall. So that's really the only distinguishing feature of the animal cell. It has no cell wall compared to plant, fungal, and bacterial cells. It's certainly compared to bacterial cells. It has a nucleus, it has mitochondria, and it may have vesicles and things inside it. Okay, so other membrane-bound structures inside the animal cell. We'll get onto a lot more of that more complicated stuff in higher studies or in your A levels or whatever. Okay, and finally we have the fungal cell. Fungal cell has all of those things that all the eukaryotic cells have. It has a cell membrane, it has cytoplasm, it has nucleus containing chromosomes, it has mitochondria, it has ribosomes. Remember, bacterial cells also have a cell membrane, they have a cytoplasm, they have chromosomes but not contained in a nucleus. And they have ribosomes. But here we have these 5 things are present in all eukaryotic cells. So these 5 things are present in the plants, the animals, and the fungi. The only thing that really sets the fungal cell apart is the fungal cell wall. And it's made of a different material, chitin in this case, a different material to the plant cell, which is made of cellulose. And that's the end of our little tour through the 4 types of cells that you need to know for National 5 biology. So what you want to be doing is sitting down and thinking about, one of the things you could do here is write up a table. What are the things that are in a plant cell? What are the things in an animal cell? What are the things in a fungal cell and a bacterial cell? Or you can write all these structures down, do the table both directions. This is good revision, just jotting out a table, and get yourself a little whiteboard, jot down the table, make sure you check it till it's correct. But going over these things over and over again is a great way to keep them in your mind. Another way to keep them in your mind is to watch this video every now and then. It does take 10 minutes, so I hope it doesn't delay you too much. It's easier to just jot them down quick on a whiteboard. All right? See you in the next video.